So today, this video is going to be about mastering programs. So I made some mock data. So what we see here is my really stretched direct training triangle. This would be in all the patient's binders. So what it is taking is information from their assessment, and we're highlighting stuff they already tested out of, because this is going to show us where to start programming. So in this case, it's 5D. And then as you can see there, the rest are white here. So the idea is to be able to reassess at a later date to see if they're still at those levels or if they've tested out again. So, but for this case, this was their intake, obviously my name, the patient, where we did it, and instructors or autism text. So the importance is to be able to see why information is kept in there. So we're going to jump to 5D because we want to look at how to master programs. So in this case, we have simple drawing imitation. So I wrote some of them in. I didn't go to all of them in, but just to get an idea of the data. So this one is to do this and then draw a line, a circle, curve, shape, multiple circles, whatever you choose. Here I did small circle, large rectangle, small triangle, railroad tracks, crescent moon, straight line. You can pick what shapes or sizes you would like to when running the program. And then here's our data sheet. So I put in mock data here so we had some to look at. So in this data set, we can see that we had a couple 8s in there. When we go back in here, it's actually the smaller objects that this individual is struggling with. So then we can go back through here, see again which ones they're struggling with, and then here if they're still struggling. So for peak programs, we're looking at 90% across 30 trials. So that means 10, 20, 30, there's your 30 trials. So this trial was only 82, so that is not going to be part of the mastery. Here we have 96, 98, and then potentially up. So because these 30 are already run by that time, this is the time to go back through and look at which ones were they struggling with. So then you can highlight them here. So if they're having troubles with the smaller ones, then we can go back to this and we can actually write those ones in again, or write in the stimulus numbers of the programs you would like to see run. Because Tech 3s are with the kids more frequently than I am, it would be so much easier for you to just kind of put in the stimulus numbers of the programs that the patient had difficulty with. So then we can get a true reading of where they're at. We could also do a level 2 in here, and we could go through 30 more. So we'd reprint this out, take the ones that they're struggling with, these smaller ones, or maybe even the straight line, and we would keep our dates the same here, date introduced, and then we're going to put a new level 2 in there with a new introduction date. And then is to really size down on where they're struggling with. Is it just the small shapes? Is it just circles, triangles, rectangles, straight lines, whatever it might be? All of this stays the same, 0 through 10. So if a patient is, let's say, we're going to change this up a little bit. So we get a little mastery in there. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 88. Needs to be switched. So then this one's at 98. So this would be a true representation of a child has mastered. If things were lower than an 8, it would cause this to not be at 90. Oops. So this is in the case where at this time here, would be the mastery date. Then you can go back to the sheet, write the date mastered. Then this would be left in my mailbox, and then you would return to the triangle, highlight that in, it's mastered now, and then move on to 5F, and so on. Peak is supposed to be run with only 5 programs running at a time, so then it's not overwhelming to the patient. And sometimes they struggle with the overall concept, and that's when we have to look at generalization, and then as a different set of programming sheets to work them up to those steps. So as long as we're pulling from the back, I do have these saved in the shared drive under my folder, and then it's labeled Peak Materials and then Peak DT for direct training, because we're going to make another folder for generalization, equivalence, and transformation. So there's still 3 other parts to this program that we have yet to run with any of the patients. But I wanted to make sure I stopped and helped to make sure that mastery was understanding. So recently we had one that was with an alphabet. So we want to make sure, are we writing the capitals? Are we writing the smaller ones too? Are we taking care of multiple numbers at a time? So as long as they're in here where we can see what they are, we'll have a true idea of what data from here is actually going over here. So if you have any questions on mastering, please let me know. Or if you think that the data is skewed because someone doesn't understand how to score the program, or they're not putting in the stimulus in here, because that's extremely important. If the stimulus is not interchanging and changing through there, then we won't have a good representation. Drawing a circle 30 times is not going to give us the same data as changing up the shapes, the sizes, or if there's multiple lines, thick lines, using a crayon, using a pencil, whatever, it's going to change. Otherwise, it's just called practice. So if there's any questions, let me know.